Paul, listen, we've got to talk to you about financial fair play, right? With all the chaos that's happening to clubs like Everton and Nottingham Forest, and, you know, we don't know yet what's happening with Manchester City. This is something that doesn't really affect Brighton because of the way or how well the club is run and how much you're buying players in for and then selling them, usually to Chelsea, for an unbelievable profit. Cucurella, 62 million, Caicedo, 115. Alexis McAllister, we don't really know the exact amount. It wasn't released, but it's around about 40 million, I'm led to believe. I think Graham Potter, there was money that you received from Chelsea for around about £20 million and so on. When you see other clubs, I don't need to name them, when you see other clubs that are struggling with financial fair play and being dock points or being talked about that in the future they could be dock points, do you feel sorry for them, or do you see it as these are the rules in the Premier League, everyone has to abide by them, so if you break the rules, you know the punishment?
Yeah, we do know the rules on and off the pitch. I mean, I think in those situations I always feel very much for the fans and the staff at those clubs. You know, they're good football clubs, great fans, good people work in those clubs and in all football clubs up and down the country. So the impact of sanctions, whether it's points that lead you to relegation or points that increase the stress during an already stressful season for everybody, obviously you feel for that. But we do have rules on and off the pitch. We've got to push ourselves to be the best clubs that we can be as competitive as we can be. That sometimes does mean that we invest hard and heavy over a short period of time to try and give ourselves the best chance. But we have got to balance those books at the end of the day. And, you know, I don't know the specific circumstances of the clubs that have been talked about this week, but I know that it's hard to run a football club because you're balancing the expectations and the demands of the fans with the resources of the owners and of course the resources that you generate through your ticket sales and your sponsorship and so on, with the need to be as competitive as you can be against the richest clubs in the world. Let's be clear. You know, in the Premier League, we have the richest clubs in the world with the most incredible resources through very large stadiums, incredible sponsorship deals. So we also want the best players, and the best players are expensive and wages are expensive. So there's so many competing interests, and it is such a competitive situation.
You spoke about patience there, and I'm guessing with Brighton, because you guys very rarely go and buy a player. We don't go and buy a player for 60, 70 million. You just don't do it. You do it other ways. How patient have the fans been? Because all football fans want their club to go and spend a massive amount of money, but you guys do it a different way, and you've been really successful with the way that you do it. Have the fans really helped you to do that?
I think our fans have been fantastic. I mean, if you look at our 123 years of history, we've only had 11 seasons at the top level. And at the moment, we're living the dream. You know, we actually had 14 seasons without a home. So we were actually homeless for longer than we've been in the Premier League or the top level. So I think, you know, like all fans, our fans want us to be the best we can be. They want us to be competing as high up in the league as we can. But they also understand that, you know, we're still relative novices at this level. We're still learning our trade at this level. We know that we can hurt some of the bigger clubs because we've done that. But to keep doing that is really hard. And to keep finding those gems, Darren, that you're talking about is really hard. And we need to do it, but we also need to bring through our own players through the academy as well. You know, this isn't just a single strategy that we have. We've got to have the academy producing regular talent like Jack Hinchelwood, who's done brilliantly, because that will actually help us compete as well. We can't pay those transfer fees because we don't have the money. We just don't generate enough revenue to be able to justify those big transfer fees. So we have to be smarter. And, you know, we have to keep finding ways of being smarter.
There have been calls when the financial fair play rules were set up. It's, I think, about 10 years ago now. And, of course, the money that's come into football between now and then has changed dramatically. There have been calls from some clubs, or some fans have phoned up. So maybe that amount of money, which is, I think, is 105 over the 3 years, or £35 million every year for those three, that maybe that should be looked at again, and maybe that should... This sounds bizarre, but you should be allowed to lose more money, if that makes sense.
Only in football would we say that, wouldn't we? Only in football would we be arguing about wanting to lose more money. I mean, that's just a bizarre concept and not one that I think any of us should sign up to. We should be looking at rules that limit our losses, make our clubs more sustainable, ensure that we live within our means as best we can. I think it is wrong to be talking about wanting to lose more money. That's just not a sustainable proposition for any business, and a football club should be no different in that context.
Do you agree with the way it's run at the moment with financial fair play? You don't have a problem with it?
I think most owners would like to lose less money, and I think if you look further down the league, you look further into the pyramid. I know Rick Parry was in the studios this morning talking about some of the issues in the EFL. We've got to find ways of making the entire pyramid more sustainable. We've got to make sure that football clubs are part of their communities for generations to come. We know how important we are to people's lives, and the only way we're going to stay relevant and important to people's lives is if we stay afloat, and we're not going to stay afloat if we keep increasing and pushing each other to lose more money.
Paul, difficult question, kind of, but you guys have to forward plan what you do. So, and my point I'm making is, like, you've had some superstar players at your football club. Do you, like, Matone, I'm just throwing that name out there. Is there like a shelf life on him where you expect him at some point to go, do you know what, someone's going to come and try and take him for £100 million? Do you forward plan for all these kind of gems that you get, or is it one of those you take it as it moves, really?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, to some extent, the more successful we are, the more vulnerable we become. And particularly when it comes to players performing perhaps over and above people's expectations, or like Matoma, he's come from Japan University, and has done incredibly well in the Premier League. We have to be prepared that those players are going to attract interest. And to be prepared means we've got to be thinking about the next Matoma. Yeah. And if you think before that, Darren, we had Leo Trossard, who went to Arsenal, and then Matoma slides in. Before Caicedo, there was Basuma. Basuma went out to Tottenham, and then Moises came in. Now we've got young Balaba, who is young and raw, but hugely talented. And Roberto's very excited about what he can become. And he yet hasn't really had a lot of game time in the Premier League, but what he has had has been very promising. And then, as I said before, I keep mentioning Jack, but at 18 years of age, to come in not just into the Premier League and play multiple positions, but into European football as well, and play multiple positions, it is quite something. So we're doing something right in the academy as well, and I'm proud of that.
It must be quite difficult as well for a club that's run so well, like Brighton, to have, I'm guessing you've got a duty of care amongst the young players coming through. Like Evan Ferguson, I'm a massive fan of. I think he's only about 19 years old. Unbelievable future ahead of him, whether it's at Brighton or, no disrespect, but a club that's going to be playing Champions League football year in, year out. How do you then balance that problem of a club coming in wanting his signature, and you're saying there's no chance he's staying, and then they come back with a crazy offer like £100 million, and then it would be madness to turn it down. But at the same time, we've seen it so many times, a big money move like that could effectively ruin a player. So your duty of care as a club and someone that's seen these young players coming through, how do you cope and how do you deal with that problem as well?
Well, I think there's always a balance. Any deal has to be right for us as well as the player. And in that regard, we rely very much on the player's advice that he's getting from his agent, from his parents, from his family, and making sure that move is made at the right time is really important. And certainly with someone like Evan, who's an incredible talent, he's still got a way to go to learn his trade. And so, letting him go at some point in the future is going to be, I'm sure, part of the overall plan, both from our side and from Evan's side. But in the short term, we want to try and make sure that we develop him as best we can. We can't always predict or guarantee when the right time to move is, and circumstances may take it in a particular direction at a certain time. But where we can, we provide the players with the best possible environment, the best coaching, the best advice we can, and we work as closely as we can with the agent and the parents and the family to make sure that advice is a 360-degree process where the player doesn't just hear from us because we've got a vested interest, but also understands from the family and agents what his position is and what his options are.
Okay. If you had a 19-year-old Darren Bent and a big club came in for him, how much would you want for Benty?
Oh, I think Benty has got a lot of potential still.
So do I. You've heard him weekdays, have you? We'll get there in the end.
talkSPORT Drive. Super opinionated sporting debate. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.